Charleston
Oh.
Human Resources.
Mr. Chairman, I need to put us up on YouTube.
Got it.
Sorry. I think it's loading now.
Okay. Now streaming live.
Oops, sorry about that. All right, we are live streaming now and also recording.
Great, thank you. The July 13th, 2023 Human Resources Committee is now called to order. Let's just take a moment of silence. Amen.
Amen.
Councilmember Gregory, the mayor just texted me and says that he'll be a few minutes late. He said for us to go ahead and get started, but he will join us.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a motion on the May 11th minutes?
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The aye has, okay. Old business. Is there any old business to come before the committee? If not,
I don't have anything,
I
Councilmember
don't
Gregory.
either. Anyone else? If not, let's go to new business and I'll turn it over to you, Kay.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us today. We're going to give you our normal updated city staffing report, after which we're going to focus today on the recreation department. You know, the last meeting we talked about parks and public service, so we kind of want to give you guys a little snapshot of what's going on in recreation. But let's start with the city staffing report. And Heather, I'm going to turn it over to you, and so you can share your screen.
Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Well, there we go. Okay. So this is our slide that we show you regarding our staffing levels, and our last meeting was held in April. So this is representing both May and June numbers. Since the last meeting, that top line represents our non-sworn positions. So we have 21 less vacant FTEs, which is a great thing since our last meeting. And then with police, there is the blue line in the center. There's been no change. And then with fire, there are 8 positions that became vacant since the last meeting, but we did have a fire recruit class that started this past Monday. And we had, I believe, 40 people within that class. So that number will definitely look different next time we report. Or 42, but I believe 2 of those were non-sworn. We'll go to any questions on that slide?
Well, yeah, let me ask you. So Heather, if you've got 40 coming in on the recruiting class, then you actually have more than we have vacant currently. Is that correct?
But I think that includes probably that if we report on that, I think we probably have lost some since then. I don't think we've overfilled, but I can take a look at that.
Okay.
And Heather, Councilmember Shealy, what Chief Curious said on department head meeting this morning is, you know, they always anticipate a certain amount of attrition. And generally we have about an 85% rate of success for everyone who makes it all the way through recruit school. Unfortunately, we did lose
Lost somebody this week.
Yeah. So, I mean, and it's going to happen. You'll have a few more probably fall out. So, but he did say they are anticipating being, you know, if not completely, almost completely, but possibly completely fully staffed after this class.
That's outstanding. That's really good.
He's very excited. And, you know, the mayor was talking about, you know, reminding everyone that when he started, I think we had 79 vacancies because, you know, Chief Curia teased me a lot about the fact that he said I left that out during the interview. Left out that little tidbit. But anyway, it's been we've made great progress, and I think we're in a really good place.
Great.
Any other questions on this slide? I'll move on to the next. So this is showing just our staffing levels in a different way. So With fire there being the red line, that would be at 90% staffed. The blue line is the next, with police being at 89% staffed. And then the white line there being the non-sworn at 72%, 82% staffed.
And our target is,
I mean, I would probably feel pretty good at 90%.
Right.
You know, but it's still, the 82% is much better than it was this time last year.
oh,
And
sure.
it's
sure.
4% up since the last meeting. So
Okay,
to kind of give you a perspective there.
that's good news.
It is
Yes,
good.
sir.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about recreation and their staffing levels. So this is a chart that shows you department-wide, and then the green showing you the field at 75%, and then blue is the vacant at 25%. The unique thing about the Department of Recreation is that a lot of these positions are part-time positions. So not all of these are full-time positions, some being part, but this kind of gives you a breakdown by the division. And we'll go into a little bit more detail there. So the vacancies there are the vacant vacant PCNs, subtracting out anybody who's in progress, in the hiring progress, and also not including our temporary workforce, which they have a number of those right now with it being summer. And those we would expect to become vacant within the next month. One caveat to recreation is the department is budgeted more for hours than for positions. So it has a lot of part-time positions, as we mentioned, to fill those hours. And this can drive up the vacancy rate compared to other departments that only have full-time hours.
I was about to ask. Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
Heather,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes,
You
sir.
Go ahead.
well, I was just going to ask on aquatics. I know we had a vendor providing lifeguards. Does that make up for some of that 30%, or are we down 30% including that?
That is just looking at the full and part-time positions. So that would not be looking at temporary positions, and that would be what
Okay.
they are fulfilling for us,
I got you.
the
Okay.
seasonal positions.
All right. Thank you.
And what I was going to say is I did send this information to Lori, because I just thought it would be good information for her to have as well. And she just mentioned to me that there's been a pretty dramatic decline in applications for part-time positions. It used to seem to be more popular, you know, especially with students, you know, going, you know, college students and even some high school students, that the recreation jobs, the part-time jobs seem to kind of, you know, help, I guess, fill someone who needed more of a flexible schedule. But we're just not getting the same applications for those part-time positions. So that's something that we're kind of looking at. Laurie, you know, and her team are, they're looking at combining some of the part-time positions and creating full-time positions where it's appropriate. So I think that's a good move. I think that's going to help us.
And Councilmember Shealy, since you were asking specifically about aquatics, I kind of jumped ahead. I'll go back to that previous slide, but this just gives you a breakdown to show you what those vacancies look like. So what those positions do in detail there.
Okay. Thank you.
A number of those are related to water safety instruction and lifeguard, and like the issue we had in the reason for looking at the company this summer, those are definitely difficult positions to fill.
And is that because of the salary?
To some degree, but I think it's also just because nationally people were having a hard time recruiting that. I think anywhere I've seen a lot of stories on the national news, but also when I've traveled to different cities, I see it on their news too, that they're having a hard time filling those jobs. And then, so aquatics there on this slide, this is kind of mid-level vacancy. So the 20 to 30%. Aquatics and the golf course are the two largest divisions, with 47 and 30 full-time positions and part-time positions respectively. And then Shaw Community Center is on the opposite end of that spectrum. They are much smaller with 5 total positions. So only having 1 vacancy there drives up that rate. So we thought it was helpful for you to see the number of positions vacant, as that might account for the high percentage. And then gymnastics has 15 positions total, and with 3 vacant, that gives them the same vacancy rate there is Shaw.
And Mr. Chairman, Councilmember Waring has his hand up.
Councilman Waring.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to follow up. What is the rate for part-time instructors?
It would be the same rate. It'd be the $17 minimum if it was an entry-level position. Some of these are not entry-level positions, like the recreation specialist are a grade 8, which is 1808 would be the starting rate for that.
Okay,
And the rec leader, if they're a rec leader, they're in the entry-level position, the $17 per hour. Sales
Okay.
clerks would fall in that.
What
and how
is-
many
what
hours
is-
they get a week, like 20 hours or something?
Roughly 20 to 30 hours. And some of them may work less than that. Sometimes you may have someone who's a student going to school.
Right,
But on average, I would say 20 hours, no more than 30.
What is North Charleston paying for aquatics?
I'm not sure, but we could definitely look at that. I know when I looked on the PRC website early on, when we were starting our recruitment for summer, we were at a higher rate than they were.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions on these mid-level vacancy rates? And if not, I'll back up to the lower level just to talk through those. Okay, so with the lowest vacancy rates there, James Allen Rec Center has a total of 10 positions. So only having the one position vacant accounts for 10%. St. Julian Divine has 6 positions total, so one vacancy rate, one position becoming vacant there is accounting for the 17%. And then Rec Programs is the second largest division within recreation, and that has 38 positions.
And Mr. Chairman, I think Councilmember Gregg had his hand up.
Councilman Gregg, because I can't see the full screen. Thank you. Councilman Gregg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, Ms. Pope, did you have a similar slide for the Daniel Island Recreation Center? Is that coming next?
It's coming next. It's going to be on the high vacancies, so we're getting to them.
All right, thanks.
Any questions about this one?
I do have a question, but it is probably going to be applicable across the board. How do we fill the voids? these
We've been
vacancies?
working with recreation to get a little bit more creative on this. We've tried in some instances to fill these voids with staffing agencies, so agency temps. We haven't had a lot of luck in those situations, but we've also worked with them at combining several part-time positions into a full-time position, because I think sometimes we found over the years where somebody might work for us part-time and they may work in another job part-time. If that other job offers them full-time hours, then they're taking that job. So we thought maybe full-time work might be the answer to solving some of these. So I know that can think of at least in 2 areas where we've combined positions, part-time positions to make a full-time position. So we're kind of trying a little bit of everything here.
Do we try full-time, part-time?
What was that, sir?
Do we ever try full-time, part-time? In other words, given the scheduling of all this stuff, there may be some voids where current full-time staff may be able to assist in filling the part-time voids.
Maybe like a secondary assignment would be kind of what we call that.
Right.
In some cases we do, and honestly, sometimes people occupy 2 part-time slots in that way. I can
Okay.
think that particularly the tennis centers do that. They may have somebody who's an instructor, but if they have more hours to give us, they may work as a rec specialist and help out at the desk also.
Okay.
And then in some situations, we have tried where we can kind of get help and just take whatever hours they can give us in more seasonal or occasional. So sometimes we filled those voids with that and just given the department the option of, you've got this much money to work with, you fill it how you can on a temporary basis with somebody with a number of employees.
Okay.
So that seems to work well at the golf course.
Okay, thank you.
And then I'll move on if you all would like to look at this one with the highest vacancy rates, that probably is definitely of concern. So in looking at that, athletics is there with 36%, and that shows you the breakdown of positions there. And athletics, I believe, is probably one of the largest of the divisions within. Is that right, Isabel?
Maybe in the top 5.
Maybe in the top 5 as far as recreation and their size of their divisions. The city gym has 11 positions. So even though it has less vacancies than athletics, it has a higher rate there just because it's a smaller size division there. And then Daniel Island rec programs there, Councilmember Boyd with a vacancy rate of 36% with 5 part-time rec specialists and 3 part-time stat bar workers. And the stat bar workers somewhat fluctuate as far as need go based on the programming and what's going on. It definitely more when your spring and fall sports are going on, there's a higher need there.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody, they don't even have anybody at that snack bar during the summer, so
Right.
not an issue until the fall and the spring when they're playing baseball and out at Governor's Park, I think.
Sure.
But Councilmember Gregg, I will say that Daniel Island Rec Center is one place where, Lori and Robin are looking at combining, part-times and creating full-time positions. So I know that that's actually in progress right now.
Okay.
Because, I just want to make sure that the service that we're providing to the public is not affected. And to me, looking at some of these vacancies, service may be affected.
I think the other challenge too with the recreation vacancies is the hours that are needed with the jobs, whereas they're not a typical Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5 job like some of our other positions are, whereas they are nights, they're weekends. So I think that sometimes also makes it more challenging. Any other questions on that slide? Okay, so we'll look at the turnover rates next. With this, the numbers overall are going down. So if you look at 2023, and this is through June of each year, is what this graph represents. The non-sworn there in the white is trending very good. So it's decreased significantly from 14% to 7.07%. So that's almost half of June of 2022's turnover rate. FD there is has gone from 5.5 to 3.4, and then the police department has increased somewhat from last year, up 2.64%. Any questions about that?
Yeah,
And
I have a
Sheila.
question. Thank
Sure.
you. So I mean, we see of these, the police department's having a higher turnover than they were before. Do we know what percentage of that is retirees, or what percentage are leaving for other police positions at other places?
Isabel, do you have that in your, where you can dig into?
Yes, I do.
Councilmember Shealy, we can provide you that information. We can send that to you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I think Cassandra in the police department has her hand up. She
Oh,
may be
sure,
able to address that.
Cassandra.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me? Yep, I
Yes.
apologize. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah, so council member, I know that without looking at the raw data, I can speak on behalf just because I see all the resignations. We have had a fairly substantial amount of retirements recently. In addition, we've lost a few people to some other agencies, but a lot of our federal partner agencies, but the majority's been a lot of retirements recently.
And I believe, Cassandra, you had sent to the committee members some information following the April meeting on the turnover. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I sent some information to the committee members on that. But I can pull the actual specifics on why they were leaving too, and what we're seeing as trending. We've got a pretty robust recruitment team that's working on some fairly high initiatives when it comes to retention, and what that looks like for the future for us.
How is diversity looking?
Well, I should know that because I just sent the information to PERF for the posting, but I think that we're actually having a pretty good increase in diversity as far as our applicants. But I'll pull the data for that and I can send it to you all if you would like.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Chairman, Councilmember Waring has his hand up.
Councilmember Waring, thanks.
And thank you. You asked a question about diversity, but I was going to ask that question about the fire department. Do you have anybody who can speak to that? I mean,
Well, Councilmember Waring, this is Kay. I don't know exactly what their overall numbers are right now. We can certainly get that to you. I can tell you that out of the class that started on Monday, we have 1 female and 8 minority candidates in the class. And that's a combination of African American and Hispanic. So we definitely have some diversity in this class. And of course, we're hoping that in the future that will continue to improve. But so their numbers are going to be somewhat better.
well, let me ask this. My understanding, and I'm not talking about this class, but actual hires that we have. Is it accurate that we have less than 10 African Americans on the fire department?
I didn't know there were that many.
Well, I said less than 10.
I do not, I don't want to speak to that without having the numbers in front of me. I think we did a report on that earlier this year, but Heather, Isabel, can we update those charts and send that out? Would you like to see it for the whole city?
Yes.
Well, no, right now, just for the fire department.
All right, yeah, we can, that's fairly easy. Of course, that's easy for me to say. Isabel's the one that's going to be doing it, but it's a fairly standard report. Yeah, we can update those numbers and get them out to you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Any other questions on that slide?
I don't think so, Heather.
Okay. All right, so this is just our projection through the end of the year. So we seem to be on the fire side, trending there at looking at a 6.14% turnover. So that is better, definitely better than last year. And their number last year wasn't terrible. On the police side, we're trending up there. Last year we were 9.73. And if we stay on the path that we have been this year, we'd be looking at a 14.69% turnover rate. And then on the non-sword side, we're looking at about half of where we were last year, looking at 13.86 compared to 24.32% last year. Any questions?
This is where everybody claps. Thank you. No, but in all seriousness, I mean, it was looking a little bleak, for non-sworn last year. So
right.
Definitely a big improvement.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't have any other questions, I'll move on to the recruitment update. So this is our slide that reviews the job postings, views, and applications. So the summer hiring has ended and the numbers are decreasing backwards to pre-summer numbers. We started to see this decrease last month. So the citywide hits have decreased about 20% since last month, going from 97,000 814 to 78,245, so down 20% since last meeting. Citywide applications have decreased 23% with a total of 1,016 applications, and that's down 33.6% since the last meeting. And the citywide postings have increased approximately 2.6%, with postings now up to 502, and that's up 6.5% since the last meeting. This next slide is
So we're getting less bites, right?
getting less bites. This shows kind of the more once they look at the application, even for those who click on it, how many are actually applying, and it's that conversion rate. So we're kind of holding steady compared to, or I guess we've gone down a little bit. April was 1.6%, and May and June 1.3%. So those are the percent of people who look at the job and apply for it. So we would definitely want that number to be higher.
Councilman Barry?
No, I'm good.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Heather.
Any other questions on the recruitment? And Lindsay's on the call. Lindsay, anything I forgot to address?
Nope, I think we covered everything. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Well, let me ask this. Will we get to public work someplace in this? Oh, that's in that white line.
That's in the white line, because they're definitely non-sworn. We did give you a little bit of a drill down the month before last. I think it was May that we did public service and parks. But we can, for the next meeting, if you want to look at them again, we can.
No, I mean, what I want to hope we can do when it comes to compensation is, we've definitely got behind the 8 ball, several years running. And yeah, we had a good year where we were able to catch some people up. But I really don't want to rest on those laurels, because I think we're subject to get behind the 8 ball again.
No, I agree. We need to keep a close eye on that, because we are doing better. Things are definitely better, but they're not perfect. And we know we need to keep pushing.
Okay.
I mean, especially at top management level. That's my big fear.
It's mine as well, because I think,
Right.
well, you lose your management, then you lose your team below,
Right.
potentially. And frankly, I think city revenues, I don't know if Amy's on here, but I would think we would have a up year this year. I would think we probably got a surplus for this year, so, somewhere, because tourism's back up above, I'm pretty sure, last year's level, and last year was a good year. Anyway,
This is something, council member, we need to start discussing at ad hoc, I think.
I agree. I guess from human resources here, again, I feel good about what we did last year, but I still feel somewhat concerned if we don't keep pace. See, I have this feeling like we're the largest city in the state, which is a fact, and I just don't think we should be falling behind other municipalities when it comes to compensating our people. We shouldn't have this isn't even a municipality, but we shouldn't have St. Andrews PSD paying any of the employees more than they would make if they were at the city of Charleston.
And it's the only way you can attract the best and the brightest. You've got to at least be competitive.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I agree with both of you. And yes, I look forward to beginning those discussions about what we're going to be able to do for our employees next year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good deal.
So
Hang on one second. Isabel was good at grabbing some quick numbers. So out of the police turnover there, 7 were retirements in 2023 so far. And out of how many total? out of 30.
30.
Okay. The other 23, do we believe they left to remain a police officer, or do we know?
I think that's probably something Cassandra could maybe dig and get a little bit more
Sure.
detail.
Sure. So I would say, council member, I know that we did have a few that left for some local agencies, but it wasn't for pay. More or less, it was for just family co-location. One was, we had a sergeant leave. Essentially, he got a promotion. He's now a deputy chief in Moncks Corner. So those are some of the examples of when they do leave for other agencies. If they leave for agencies locally, it's for family or promotions. And then if they leave for agencies that are federal, it's normally for obviously advancement.
Sure.
You know, our PIO just left. She moved, her whole family left, you know, that was the city's PIO as well. They moved up north to be closer to family because they've got young kids. So there's various multipliers that we see for our folks that are leaving. We've had a couple cadets recently that were not able to complete their training. So there's just so many different facets to it. On why our folks are typically leaving, but we did have, like I said, a bulk majority of retirements recently too.
Okay.
Cassandra, on the other 23 that didn't retire, do we ever do an
Yes,
analysis?
sir.
Do we ever do an analysis of what investment that we put in them that we lost?
Yes, sir. We've
You're breaking up a little bit. You're breaking up.
An analysis
Cassandra.
on that several times, running through a place that's bad reception.
Yes, this is better.
Can you hear me now? Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done several analysis on the costs for running our police officers through training in the past, and I can pull that for you all. I'd be happy to share that. Everything down from just, you know, employing them up to training, their PTO training, and then as well as, you know, what that looks like after. It's pretty substantial cost. We put a lot of money in investment in bringing them here and getting them trained. And so, yeah, it's hard to see when they do leave for some of those different issues. We also do. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I'm saying, is there any way for us to sort of, I know this is going to sound crazy, put a minimum amount of time. If we invest X in you, okay, we are going to expect you to be here for Y number of years. Can we do
Yes,
that?
sir. Well, I know I had talked to Kay in prior years about something similar. That'd probably be a question for her, but I do know for us, we do one thing that does kind of cover us is the South Carolina criminal justice bylaws, essentially. So if we bring a person into our agency, and I actually did just have this happen, and they don't they don't stay with us after a year's worth of training, we actually can incur and request the 100% of that person's salary from that agency that they then go to. After it's between year 1 and year 2, we can actually incur, I believe it's 50%. And that's what I just did recently with one of the persons that went to another agency. But I know I spoke to Kay in prior years. It's been a long time. We had talked about some sort of option at you know, when we train our folks, if we could have them sign something that says, and I don't really know where we left at that because it's been a long time, council member.
Okay. But it sounds as though you guys are thinking about it or have even acted on it. Sounds like it. So
Yes, sir. Especially if they go to any of another South Carolina law enforcement agency, that's immediately one thing that we look at.
okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, if there's no other questions, I think we could move on to the next item on our agenda. And for this one, we need to go into executive session. Jennifer, can you help us with that?
I can. And I think there just needs to be a motion and a second and a vote first.
So move.
Second.
That we go into so approved. Let's go into executive session.
All right, we will stop the live stream.